Have you ever heard the name Erich Fromm? You know, if this were the 1950s, that question would be kind of ridiculous. He was a genuine intellectual superstar, one of the most brilliant thinkers of his generation. But today, well, his name just doesn't quite have that same ring to it. So today, we're going to explore the incredible story of his rise to fame and his curious fade from the public spotlight. Okay, just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't just some casual praise. To be seen as an educated person, you had to have read Fromm. I mean, think about that. His books weren't just popular, they were considered absolutely essential reading for anyone who wanted to be part of the cultural conversation. It was basically a prerequisite. And that right there is the central mystery we're diving into. How does a thinker go from being required reading for an entire generation to, well, someone a lot of people on college campuses today might not even recognize? What on earth happened? That is the question we are going to unpack. So what made him such a giant in the first place? Well, Fromm was this absolutely brilliant essayist who had this uncanny ability to connect worlds that seemed totally separate. I mean, one minute he'd be analyzing global politics, and the next he'd be diving deep into the minds of biblical prophets or the personal struggles of getting older. His real gift was his knack for cutting through the surface of any topic to get to the very core of what it means to be human. So, how are we going to solve this mystery of his fading star? Well, we're not going to sit here and debate his work as philosophy. That could go on forever. Instead, we're going to do something a little different. We are putting his theories through a really rigorous scientific stress test. We're going to measure his ideas against the 6 key criteria that any truly useful scientific theory has to meet. So here it is. This is our report card. A really solid scientific theory has to do a few things. It should spark new research. It has to be testable, meaning you could potentially prove it wrong. It needs to organize what we already know into a coherent picture. It should give us practical guidance. It's got to be internally consistent. And, believe it or not, it should be as simple as possible. So, how does Fromm's work stack up? All right, the test is on. And let's start with the good news. On our 6-point checklist, Fromm doesn't just pass one of these categories, he absolutely crushes it. This is where he truly shines. And that strength is its incredible power to organize knowledge. This was Fromm's superpower. His ideas give you this amazing panoramic framework that connects all the dots, social, political, historical, to give you this really deep and broad understanding of the human condition. It's a grand, sweeping perspective that helps explain so much about who we are. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? This is a big one. While his theory is fantastic at organizing what we already know, it pretty much fails on the other 5 scientific criteria. And this, right here, is the key to understanding why his influence in academic circles started to wane. Let's kick things off with the biggest problem. If you search through all the psychology literature from the past 45 years, you will find almost 0 empirical studies that actually tested Fromm's ideas. 0. So why is that? Well, it's because his terms were often really vague and imprecise, which makes them incredibly difficult for a scientist to pin down, measure, and actually test in a lab. Now, this lack of testing leads us directly to our next big criterion, falsifiability. This idea is right at the heart of the scientific method. It's actually pretty simple. It just means that for a theory to be considered scientific, there has to be some way, at least in principle, to prove it wrong. If you can't even design a test that the theory could potentially fail, then you're not really doing science anymore. And right here, we see the big clash. Fromm's ideas are often just too philosophical to be pinned down. They're these grand, sweeping, abstract concepts about human nature, not specific, testable predictions. Think about it. If any result from an experiment can be explained away after the fact, the theory can never truly be proven wrong, can it? The other 3 flaws? Well, they kind of follow the same pattern. His work doesn't really guide action. I mean, it's super inspiring to read, but it offers very little practical, step-by-step information for, say, a therapist working with a client. It's not internally consistent, it doesn't have a clear structure, or even one single set of defined terms. And finally, it isn't parsimonious. That's just a fancy scientific word for simple, the idea that the simplest explanation is often the best one. Fromm, he rarely threw out old concepts, so his theories just got more and more complex over time. So there you have it. The final report card is in. Fromm gets an A+ for his incredible ability to organize knowledge. But when you look at the 5 other crucial measures of a useful scientific theory, I'm sorry to say, it's a fail. right across the board. So is that it? Is that the final word? Is Fromm's work just a failure? Well, not so fast. Because maybe, just maybe, judging him as a scientist means we're missing the point of his work entirely. Let's take a look at his real, enduring legacy. This is the real question, isn't it? If his theories don't hold up under a scientific microscope, then why should we even care about them today? What is their lasting contribution? What's their value? And here, I think we find the answer. Maybe we've been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole this whole time. The ultimate value of Erich Fromm isn't as a scientist. It's as a brilliant writer whose ideas challenge us, they provoke us, and most importantly, they stimulate us to think more deeply and more productively about our world and about ourselves. So I'll leave you with this final thought to just sort of chew on. In our endless search for knowledge, what do we really value more? Is it the cold, hard certainty of a fact that can be proven in a lab? Or is it the sheer power of a profound idea to spark a whole new way of seeing the world? Something to think about.